What's up everyone, I'm Jeffrey at Lightbox, and today I want to talk about improving web designs using Elementor. Now, have you ever wondered how a professionally built website, it can look just so clean, so just polished. Even if it's super minimal and simple design, it just looks clean and has that professional look and feel. And how other websites, they can look, a kind of bit amateurish, like something is off. And maybe right now you are trying to up your game and level up your game and start designing websites that are more professional looking. That higher level looking where it's just clean, professional designs. Well, one of the biggest reasons for this comes down to the consistency inside the design. And this has to do with typography, with fonts, with your color usage, with using UI elements such as forms and buttons, and having consistency through the overall spacing and padding throughout the entire design. Consistency in all of these areas right here is one of the key factors that makes a website look clean and polished versus one that just looks a bit off. And you may not know this, but Elementor actually has a built-in tool to help you keep a consistent design throughout your entire website. In fact, it's a very similar tool to what professional designers use to build design systems. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to build a design system and how to use it and implement it inside Elementor. And guaranteed, you use a design system like this, what I'm about to show, your designs are going to come out looking a whole lot better than what they are right now. So, real quick, before we get into Elementor, we first got to have a good understanding of what a design system is and how it works. A professional designer will always design into tools such as Adobe XD, Sketch, Figma before actually going in to build the website. These tools right here, they're the industry standard tools when it comes to professional web and UI design. And we use these tools to build mockups of the design, and that's how the design is going to look for a website before actually building the website. But before building a mockup, a professional designer will always build a design system. Now, the design system is going to define all the elements inside the design. It's going to define the typography or the font styles. It's going to define what colors are going to be used, the UI elements, what buttons are we going to use, what forms are we going to use. And building this design system, it doesn't take long, but by building it first and taking that little bit of time to define all these first is actually going to speed up your workflow and make the process go a whole lot smoother and faster in the overall project. And real quick, I have to point this out because if you're still at the newer stages of web design and if you're feeling overwhelmed, please do not be overwhelmed at all. This is just an introduction to design systems. In fact, you could always start off using a regular pen and paper just inside of a notebook, and you could build your design system inside of a notebook. Now, it is highly recommended. I do highly recommend getting to learn one of these tools, especially if you want to level up your skills, especially if you see yourself, becoming more of a high level designer. It is ideal and recommended to get to know one of these tools. I think Figma is a great one to start off with. First, that is free and that is good for both Mac and PC. You also got Adobe XD, which is great. If you have an Adobe subscription, Adobe XD works great. And if you got a Mac, Sketch works awesome. I personally am a Sketch fan. I even got a tattoo for it. I love it, but I also use Figma a lot too because they all have their own pros and cons. We're not going to get into any of that right now. And I'm not going to get a Figma tattoo, at least anytime soon. But let's go ahead and get into the design systems. First, I want to start off and I want to show you a design system right here that I created. And here's the design system that I've recently put together. This one is actually for our new Lightbox website. I thought this would be a good one to show for this tutorial. I start off right here with our brand colors. As you can see, I only have 5 of them. The more minimal you can make your brand colors, the easier it is and the cleaner your design will be. The font colors, I only use 2 font colors. Again, keeping it really minimal. By keeping these minimal, it's a lot easier to keep consistent. If you look down here now, I got my UI elements. I define my buttons. It's important to keep the buttons the same throughout the website. Sometimes we'll look at some websites and there will be 4, 5, 10 different buttons. Some buttons will have different border radiuses and some of them will have completely different styles. That makes it harder for the user to identify an actual button on your website. By keeping all the buttons the same, it makes it easier for the user to know these are the buttons on this website. Same thing with the form. I just defined the form. And then here, this is probably the most important right here, is typography. And typography in itself, it's actually not that easy. I've had to study it and take a lot of time working on typography. Now here, what I did here was I defined the styles on it. Here's the extra large, our large title, medium, small, our subheader, and then the body text right here. And then I use only this font right here on this one, Helvetica. I chose to use only one font. And if you're new with typography and if you're learning how to improve your design, I highly suggest starting with just one font. Possibly two, but the rule of thumb is to never use more than two. By keeping just one font and starting off with one clean font, first, it's going to make it a whole lot easier for your typography to be more consistent. The second thing is it's going to help out with the loading, because the more fonts you put on your website, the slower your website starts to become. And third, typography is quite advanced when it comes to design. It's not one of the easier elements to learn. It takes quite a bit of studying and a lot of understanding. And a good place to start to learn typography is to stick with one font and get really good at it. By having this right here defined in the system with this one font, this is all we have now. We only have these font styles, and inside my design, these are going to be the only font sizes that I use defined here. By doing this, let me see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 different font styles. That is it. By keeping those 6 right there, things aren't going to be all over the place. They're not going to be random and they're not going to look messy. A lot of the times where something just feels off with the design and you can't put your finger on it, it's because some elements are just random and they're not in line with the consistency of everything else. All right, so that's a design system. And right now, if you are feeling overwhelmed, please don't. You don't need to have a fancy looking one like this. In fact, you could start off with a pen and paper. You could get a notebook and you could actually write these down first. You don't have to use a tool like what I'm using here. But I do highly suggest and recommend starting to learn one of these tools. If you want to improve your web design game and you are looking to move up your level in web design, learning a tool and getting really good at one of these tools is going to help you get there. Okay, so that's the design system. Now we're going to take this design system right here, and now we're going to put it and integrate it into Elementor. This is where the fun begins. So let's go dive into Elementor now. And let's start off in the back right here. So this is a clean, fresh install. Nothing's been added in here. Nothing's been done except I added Elementor. I'm gonna clean up my dashboard because I like a clean dashboard. All right, and then you could go and you could see here my plugins. All I have are two, Elementor and Elementor Pro. Now you will need the Pro version in order for this to work. If you don't have the Pro version yet, go grab it real quick. There is a link in the description. By using that, it really helps this channel. But definitely go get that Pro version and come back. So after you got your Elementor and Elementor Pro, I suggest starting with the design system first before doing anything else. To start with that, let's go over to our pages. And these are the default pages that come with a new install of WordPress. I always trash these. I like to start with a clean website. Let me delete these permanently. And now let's create a page, and we're going to create our home page. Now the reason why we want to create that page is we got to use the editor of Elementor in order to access our design system. So click on Edit with Elementor. And over here now, click on this left hamburger. You'll see right here it says Site Settings. Click on Site Settings. And here is where we implement and add in our design system. And a lot of the work is going to come right here in global colors and global fonts. So the global colors right here, what we're going to do is we're going to add these brand colors right here into our global colors as well as our font colors. And then for our global fonts, we're going to add all of our typography right into these global fonts. Now first, there's one more thing that we have to do in order for this to work. Let's go back to your dashboard. Let's go over here to Elementor and go to your settings. From here, you have to disable Elementor's default colors and disable Elementor's default fonts. We're going to disable these so that way we could use our fonts and our colors from our design system. So let's go back over to Pages, to Home, and you can just click on Edit with Elementor here. Go back to the hamburger, to the site settings, and we'll start off with our global colors. We'll pick our first one, our brand pink color right here. You could input the pink, and then right here too, you could change the name. I like to change all the names so it's easy for me to recognize. So I'll put brand color 1, and I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of these, and I'll be right back. Okay, now you can see that I have everything added here. I got my pink, my light purple, my other purple, my dark purple, my black, and my white for my text. And that's what we have here for our colors. Now let's go and add our typography. And we're going to do is exactly the same thing. First thing, click on Global Fonts. Let's start off with the big one right here. I'm going to zoom in here so I can see it a lot easier. And here I define my font size first for my desktop, then for tablet, and then for mobile. Then I have my font weight, my line height, and my letter spacing, and then everything is going to be Helvetica. So let's go ahead and put this in. Okay, and now I have all my global colors added. You can see the colors are the same as the ones in my design system. And I also gave them the labels that are easy to recognize. Then we go to the global font, same here. We got the extra large title, large, medium, small title, subheader, and body header. And everything is set up. You know, if we go in and take a look, you can see it's Helvetica, the font size, the font weight, line height, spacing, it's all set up, it's good to go. Now, if we were to go back and say add a title in here, go to your style, go to your text color. Now I could choose to make it black right there. Go to typography, click right on here, and we can make it extra large. I can make it the large title. All my settings are right inside here. So there's no more having to go through each individual and setting it up. Instead, after you set up your global styles, you will use this little global icon right here and set it up from there. Makes it so much easier. The problem is when every time you're setting up an element and you're going back here and styling each one of them up, they're going to be different, they're going to be random, and they're not going to be as consistent. But now, all we have are these 6 options for all of them. Makes it a whole lot easier to set it up and to get it done clean and consistent. There's a couple more now to go ahead and do. Go back to your site settings and let's go over to buttons. And from here we want to style up our own button. So for our typography, We could keep it, we could actually use a global software typography. We're going to use the body text right there. Let's go back to our button. And even our box shadow, we have a style up in our box shadow to keep even the box shadows consistent. This is actually really huge right here to be able to keep all your buttons the same. The same border radius, the same box shadow, the same layout, and the spacing. By doing that, it just makes everything look so much cleaner. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a web page and it'll have 5, 6, 7, 8 different buttons on that page, and it gets really confusing with all those. So let's go ahead and style this up. Okay, now that we got our button styled up, let's take a look at how it looks and go to the front end, and I'll show you how it works. Let's drag in the button and you can hover over it and you see now we got the button straight out of Elementor is now going to be consistent throughout the site. We could put in now, learn more, put in the text that we want to use, add our links. Also, you can see from our design system, we got the purple and pink buttons we're going to use. Everything is already built. You could go right in here to your style and you could change it inside here. So you could just change your background color right away and go straight into your global color. So your global, basically, anytime you see this, this is your design system right here. And then the last one that you could do over here is go to your settings and go ahead and add your form fields. And you can style these up, your form fields, just like you would do your buttons, just like you would have done your colors and for your typography. And all of these are going to be the same. And that right there is how you set up your design system for your typography, for your colors, and for your UI elements right inside Elementor. Everything is, after you've set it up, it's basically automated. All y'all have to do is now you add in text and you just choose which text you want to use. You don't have to style each one of them up. And same thing with your colors, you just choose what color to use. This is going to minimize all the guessing and all the random stuff that's being done in your website. It's going to keep things more consistent. But there's still one thing that needs to be done, and hopefully this will be built soon into Elementor. It's not built in there now, but it's something you could do right now still. Now with the spacing and padding, what I suggest to do is when you build your design system right here, define how much spacing and padding on the top and the bottom of each section you will have. For example, for all of our websites we do, I either use 60, 80, 100, or 120 pixels top and bottom. I keep the top and the bottom even. So if this is your text, if this is your elements, or whatever it is in your section, these elements right here, you want to keep the same spacing on top and bottom throughout your entire website. Take a look real quick. This is another design system that I built. It is also for our upcoming website, a bit more advanced right here. I added a few more elements, but this is what I mean right here. You could build something again. You could also do something like this right inside of a notebook. But right here, what I defined was in this design we're going to have 100 pixels spacing on the top, and we're going to have 100 pixels spacing on the bottom, and then 12 on each side. And I do 12 on each side because when I start off with 12 and you go down to mobile, you have just enough spacing for a mobile device. By defining this in the very beginning as well, this is going to make a huge impact on your design, on your website. It's going to make it look a whole lot cleaner. Often when I'm reviewing somebody else's design and something is off, this is one of the key things that's usually off. Usually I could spot it, the spacing is a lot higher on the top than it is at the bottom, or vice versa. Define this in the very beginning. You're going to make your designs a whole lot cleaner, whole much more efficient, and it's just going to look a lot doper. Your skills are going to start to go up, and you're going to start looking at things a whole lot differently when you start building design systems like this. And luckily, using Elementor, it has the tools right there for us to build it in. Well, that's it for this tutorial. I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I get back to everyone. I really appreciate you watching. And if you did enjoy this and want to be notified when I put out more web design and Elementor related content, please subscribe, like, all that good YouTube stuff is much appreciated. And I'll be back and see you soon. Thank you.